Yeah, let me know when you're ready to start. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So, usually, these type of lessons, durus, they'll begin with basmala, the formula Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and hamdana, saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is based on Quran and Hadith, and we'll get to inshallah some Hadith that mention it. Now, you'll hear, okay, many of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah that say, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim, right? That, oh Allah, send your peace and your blessings upon Muhammad, his family, and his companions. Because it's important, right, to know that the family of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, they have become a very important symbol for the deen, for the Muslims, as really a flag, a post of guidance. And myself, I actually grew up in Albany, right? I grew up in Albany, around Lincoln Park. I used to live there. And then we moved to IDRO. So I'm from the area, and I grew up in this area. Currently, I live in Clifton Park. I went and I studied for 7 years overseas after high school. I went to Damascus, I went to Morocco, I went to Saudi Arabia, and I was very happy that I went to these places, particularly Damascus, because really Damascus is an amazing place. It's like one of the centers, one of the bastions of Islamic civilization historically, and even to this day. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, he said, Allahumma barik lana fi shamina, Allahumma barik lana fi yaminina. He said, oh Allah, bless us in our Sham, in the Levant, or this area called Sham. Sham comprises the region of Jordan, Syria, and Palestine. And sometimes Sham refers to only Damascus. When people say Sham, sometimes they just refer to Damascus. But classically, Sham refers to that whole region. So in this authentic hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, oh Allah, bless us in Sham and bless us in Yemen. And then it was said to him, Ya Rasulullah, wa fi Najdina. And then they asked about Najd, and the Prophet ﷺ, he said that from it will come the horns of shaitan. So, you know that this is what this hadith says, and it's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari. And another hadith, narrated by Abu Darda, the great Sahabi radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, بَيْنَا أَنَا نَائِمٌ, that while I was sleeping, إِذْ رَأَيْتُ عُمُودُ الْكِتَابِ اُحْتُمِلَ مِنْ تَحْتِ رَأْسِي, that while I was sleeping, I saw that the pillars of the Quran was taken from under my head. فَظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ مَذْهُوبٌ بِهِ, that I thought it was going to be taken away. فَأَتْبَعَتْهُ بَصَرِي, that my eyes followed it. فَعُمِدَ بِهِ إِلَى الشَّامِ, and it was established in Sham. أَلَا وَإِنَّ الْإِيمَانَ حِينَ تَقَعُ الْفِتَنُ بِالشَّامِ, and the Prophet ﷺ said that belief, true and strong belief, will be in Sham when the fitnas happen. The only reason I mentioned this hadith is just to mention some of the fada'il, some of the virtues, some of the blessed things about this area. And when the Prophet ﷺ says something, it happens. Why? Because he's not he's not talking from his whims. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. It is, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's not just telling you what he thinks, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he's the greatest man who ever existed. So if he told us what he thought, that would be great in itself. But he's telling us something that he was inspired to say, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And it's true, because if you look at Damascus was the home of Imam Nawawi. It was the home of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. It was the home of so many of the greatest of the mashayikh that history has seen. And alhamdulillah, I was happy to and very overjoyed, and I'm very happy now to say to you that I studied for so long in Damascus, right? And one of my shuyukh in Damascus, one of my main shuyukh, his name is Sheikh Samar al-Nas. He has a website. SheikhSamar.com. Currently, right now, he's in Indonesia, and there he's teaching, and he's one of the senior scholars in Damascus. He's the shuyukh of shuyukh there, and I was very lucky to be able to study under him very closely. So, amongst other shuyukh, when he was the main sheikh that I had the privilege of studying under when I was in Damascus, and it's very important as a Muslim to know that you should seek out the inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that his inheritors are the scholars. So the scholars of our time, the greatest of them, we should strive to know them and spend some time with them and try to get from the inheritance that they have. Alhamdulillah, here in Albany we have people who have some of that inheritance, and we're very lucky. Right? Myself, I went to Damascus, I studied. There's people like Sheikh Yasin who studied under Sheikh Amin al-Suwaid, and Sheikh Amin al-Suwaid, he himself was from Damascus, and he's one of the highest authorities in the world today in Quran. And then we have, a lot of shuyukh, that we have some women scholars like Sister Zainab Chowdhury, we have my wife, Shaisa Mahmoud, we have Brother Faisal who also studied. And alhamdulillah, we're very blessed here in the capital region that we have people who went to the Muslim world, who experienced the scholarship that was handed down from generation to generation, and experienced some of that great scholarship, right, that still exists to our time today. And Sheikh Samar al-Nasi has many videos online that talk about his bio. And the reason I felt it important to talk about this as part of the introduction is because it's important to know where someone is coming from when they present what kind of background, what kind of exposure they've had. And our topic today is fiqh. So the agenda today, we're going to talk about what fiqh is, an introduction to what fiqh is, defining fiqh, and inshallah we'll try to cover the ahkam, the different ahkams that we have in fiqh. So here, regarding basmala, to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and before we continue, let's make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say to him, Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Oh Allah Ta'ala, benefit us with that which you teach us. وَعَلِّمْنَا مَا يَنْفَعُنَا, and teach us that which benefits us. وَزِدْنَا عِلْمًا, and increase us in knowledge. وَفَقِّهْنَا إِذَا عَلَّمْتَنَا, and give us fiqh, and give us understanding if you teach us. Ya Alim, Ya Alim, Amin. Because knowledge is of many types, and there's that which is beneficial, that which is not beneficial. And really, subhanAllah, people with knowledge that is not beneficial, they destroy their dunya and their akhirah. So it's very important to make this dua so that we try to, we invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that knowledge which will benefit us. And beneficial knowledge is knowledge that gets you closer to Allah. So he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, كُلُّ أَمْرٍ ذِي بَالٍ لَا يُبْدَأُ فِيهِ بِبِسْمِ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ أَبْتَرُ. That every matter that has significance and it does not commence with basmala, the formula Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it will be devoid of barakah, it will be devoid of blessings. Right? And what is barakah ultimately? Barakah, you see, people think that barakah is when you have something that is not that much and it turns out to be a lot. Right? They think barakah is when a miracle happens or something like that. That's not barakah. Because the Dajjal, he'll come with miracles. Barakah is that which brings you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's important to say Bismillah, hoping that you get the barakah. By this, you get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Nawawi, he says in his book Al-Adhkar, he says that there's ijma', and I put this word in red because this is one of the terminologies that you should understand, okay, in regards to fiqh. This is basic fiqh terminology that it's important to have as a Muslim exposure to. So there's ijma', scholarly consensus, that it is mustahab, another term that you hear in fiqh discourse, to start a dua, a prayer with hamd, praising of Allah Almighty, and prayers upon the Prophet ﷺ. So, inshallah, we'll talk about ijma'. What is ijma'? We'll just touch on it because this isn't fard al-ayn. This class, the point of this class is so that we go over the fard al-ayn. And the fard al-ayn, they're the basic things that you need to know as a Muslim so that you can practice your religion properly. And this is really a very amazing path that you're treading when you come to these type of classes, when you seek sacred knowledge. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, he who follows a path in quest of knowledge, Allah will make the path of Jannah easy to him. The angels lower their wings over the seeker of knowledge, being pleased with what he does. The inhabitants of the heavens and the earth, and even the fish in the depths of the ocean, seek forgiveness for him. The superiority of the learned man over the devout worshipper is like that of a full moon to the rest of the stars. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says about the story of two Jewish men, right? One who spends all of his time, and this is of course before Islam, he spent all of his time to worship Allah. And the other one, he did his mandatory prayers, and the rest of the time he spent teaching fiqh and teaching scripture. The Prophet ﷺ said that the preference of the one that was teaching fiqh over the one who was worshiping the whole time is like my preference over the lowest of you. Over the Prophet Muhammad's preference, who's Khairul Khalq, he's the best of creation, over the lowest of people. Because understanding in religion, my brothers, understanding the deen is of the utmost importance. Fiqh, understanding the religion, it's very important. It's of the utmost importance. So he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the learned are the heirs of the prophets. The scholars are the heirs of the prophets who bequeath neither dinar or dirham. A dinar is a gold coin, a dirham is a silver coin. But only that of knowledge. What they inherit is that of knowledge. And he who acquires it has in fact acquired an abundant portion. So ilmul fiqh. What is fiqh? This term was used in hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. He who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for him, he'll give him fiqh. He'll give him understanding in his religion. And in the context of the Islamic sciences, fiqh refers to Islamic jurisprudence. When you say fiqh, you're talking about Islamic law, Islamic jurisprudence. And when it comes to these matters, when it comes to anything, any matter, in seeking knowledge, when it comes to Islamic law, you should seek the fuqaha. When it comes to matters of tajweed, you should seek who? The muqri'een, the ulama of tajweed. When it comes to matters of hadith, is this hadith sahih or is it not sahih? Who should you ask? The muhaddithin. If it comes to matters of tafsir, who should you ask? The mufassirin. And it's important to understand that in our religion is a vast and a very deep religion with a lot of literature and a lot of disciplines within it. That they're specialties. And one of the specialties of Islamic learning, Islamic knowledge, Islamic sciences is fiqh, is Islamic law, is its specialty. So when Allah Ta'ala says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ ذِكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, that you should ask the people of expertise if you do not know. He didn't say, subhanahu wa ta'ala, return to the Quran and Sunnah and derive the rulings by yourself. No, because you people in this academic environment, you know that not everyone is the same when it comes to academics, when it comes to understanding, when it comes to being able to analyze and research, and when it comes to doing these matters. People are not the same. In fact, no two persons are the same. Right? So, Allah Ta'ala is not going to ask everyone to go do the research. No, it doesn't make any sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran to ask the people of expertise if you don't know. If you don't know, what do you do? Do you go and try to do your own research? No, you ask experts. Once you do that, you've done your responsibility. And of course, you have to be careful who you ask, because you may ask someone who's not an expert, or he may not be pious, or something else. He may be an expert, he's not pious. So there's a lot of things that someone needs to take into consideration, right? When they ask someone, but they should try to find the experts in the field and ask them regarding those matters. Okay? And the word fiqh is used in the Quran as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما كان المؤمنون لينفروا كافة فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. That it is not for the believers to go forth to battle all at once. Allah Ta'ala is telling the Muslims, don't all of you go for jihad. Right? For there should separate from every division of them a group remaining to obtain understanding fiqh. To obtain fiqh in the religion and warn their people when they return to them that they may be cautious. So that they're cautious. Right? So that they're careful, they know how to. And even historically, amongst the Sahabas, not every Sahabi was a faqih. Not every Sahabi was a muqli, right? Not every Sahabi knew how to do ta'weel of the Quran. And amongst the fuqaha, there's the four abadila, Abdullah bin Umar, Abdullah bin Abbas, Abdullah bin Zubayr, Abdullah bin Amr bin As, right? They were well known amongst the young Sahabas. They were saying Abdullah bin Mas'ud, right? They had their own schools amongst the Sahabas. They differed in matters of fiqh, right? They were saying Aisha. So even amongst the Sahabas, this specialty was well recognized. That's important to know. Because many people, when they come to the masjid, or when they go anywhere and they see Muslims, and they see someone wearing a hat like this, and they have nice thobe, they're like, Sheikh, he knows everything in Islam. They may ask him everything and anything, and you know what, if he tells me something, that's a deen. No, you gotta be careful. You have to be more precise than that. So fiqh, Islamic law, has four general parts. Islamic law has four general parts. There's the fiqh al-ibadat, there's the fiqh al-mu'amalat, there's the fiqh of ahwal al-shakhsiyya, and the fiqh of hudud. So ibadat, this is the Islamic law that is pertinent to worship, ritual worship. How to do it. What can you do, what can't you do? And the laws that govern the laws of worship, or the laws of worship itself. And then there's a fiqh of mu'amalat, the fiqh, the laws of transactions, selling, buying, renting, trading. Then there's the fiqh of ahwal al-shakhsiyya, family laws like inheritance, marriage, divorce, all these matters. And there's the fiqh of hudud, governmental laws, laws of jihad, laws of engagement, these type of things. Right? What we're going to be focusing on in these classes is the fiqh of ibadat. Right? the Fadl Ayn regarding Fiqh of Ibadat. But all books of Fiqh, they generally have these separate units. Okay, that's you. Any questions?
So what's the difference between fiqh and sharia?
Sharia is fiqh. It's Islamic law. It's pretty much one and the same thing. Right? The Sharia is Islamic law, and fiqh is Islamic jurisprudence. Any other questions?
Actually, I have another question.
Sure.
Can you explain the four Abdullahs? What did they kind of stuff they differ on?
Sorry?
The four Abdullahs, you said
Yes.
they had their own schools of thought. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so every, so the Sahabas, they had difference of opinion. And they had,
This was after?
This is after the Prophet ﷺ, right? Because in our deen, we know what we know for sure. The things that there's ijma'. Before we mentioned the term ijma', that there's consensus. There's no difference of opinion on them. Like the Sahaba, they didn't differ whether Dhuhr prayer was 4 rak'ahs fard. There was no difference of opinion about that. Everyone knew Dhuhr was 4 rak'ahs fard. They didn't differ whether hijab was mandatory fard. No, they knew that a woman had to wear a khimar, right? She had to wear the hijab. She had to, right? They didn't differ in, whether you had to make wudu before you prayed. There was no difference of opinion in these matters. But there were some masail that came about, right? In inheritance and, other things, that we don't have an explicit statement from the Prophet ﷺ to tell us exactly what the answer is, or it wasn't known to the practice, right? So, and perhaps, some Sahabis they knew, but others they didn't, but there wasn't enough proof for them to establish a strong legal ruling for that matter. You see? And alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala, He said in the Quran that إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. That we've revealed this remembrance. He didn't just say, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we revealed the Qur'ans, and the Qur'an is the only thing that's preserved. But our Sharia, okay, the most essential matters of our religion, it's preserved completely. You see, and it's preserved, through these different sciences, alhamdulillah, right? So, as far as what they differed in, I'm not really prepared to tell you, the details of, how they differed, right? But they had difference of opinion, but the difference in opinion were not in matters that all Muslims know to be essentially part of Islam. Okay?
It was not during the life of Rasulullah.
No, even during his life they had differences.
Oh, even during.
Even one time the Prophet ﷺ, he told the companions, right, that do not pray Asr until you get to Banu Qurayza. And then what happened was that some of the companions, they prayed Asr on the way, and some they actually prayed Asr outside of its time. And they prayed Asr, right, once they got to Banu Qurayza. And they interpreted the words or they understood it differently. One group thought that the Prophet ﷺ meant that if you can get there in time, in Asr time, then, pray over there. But if you can't get there in the time of Asr, right, then it's okay to pray in the way. Whereas other companions, they listened to the Prophet ﷺ literally, and they prayed Asr outside of its time in Banu Qurayza. See now, now Sheikh Islam, he mentions this point, and it's a very important point, that when these companions, when they came back to the Prophet ﷺ, and they told him what happened, that a group of us prayed on the way and a group of us prayed over there, he didn't say to the group that prayed on the way, why didn't you listen to my words explicitly? He didn't join any of the two groups. Right? He didn't join any one of them, and he didn't even say which one was right. You see? So, it happened during the time of the Prophet. But what's important, okay, and you don't see this today with many Muslims, is that we have adab in our ikhtilaf. Okay, as long as the ikhtilaf is legitimate, as long as the difference of opinion is legitimate, it's based on legitimate scholarship, then we should be tolerant. But here we have people who don't have scholarship, who aren't people of scholarship, right? And they want to differ. Not only they want to differ, but they want to start calling the other guy kafir because he doesn't agree with his opinion. Right? So this is the thing, okay, that is haram. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And when He tells us, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, subhanahu wa ta'ala He says, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, do not be sex and divisions and divide. Don't divide. Especially on matters where there's legitimate scholarly basis for having a difference of opinion. You see? So this is really important. Really important. I hope I answered your question.
No, thank you. That's good.
Anything else before we continue? So it's clear? 4 general parts for fiqh. We're going to be covering the fiqh of worship, inshallah. So now we're going to talk about ahkam. What are the ahkam? Ahkam is a ruling. A ruling tells you how significant a particular act is and what it means. So the first one that we're going to cover is fard. And we're going to cover 9 ahkam. Okay? There's difference of opinion whether there's 5 ahkam or there's 9 ahkam. Okay? Some madhabs say that there's 9. Some say that there's 5. Actually, there's only one that says that there's 9, the Hanafi. The others say there's 5. Okay? But here, let's go over the 9 ahkam. 4 of these ahkam indicate things that you should do. 1 is neutral, the 5th one, and 4 indicate prohibition. Okay? So the first one is fard. Fard means you have to do it, you must do this. Okay? It's the most rewarding and beloved act of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the hadith says, the hadith Qudsi. وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِ. That my slave does not draw closer to me with anything that's more dear to me than that which I have made fard, that which I have made incumbent upon him. Right? And to omit a fard is one of the most sinful matters that you can do if it's done intentionally. A denier of something that's fard, like an act that's fard, a denier of that, he usually becomes kafir. Like for example, if someone says that I don't have to make a ruku in prayer, that's not fard, sunnah. There's ijma' that ruku is fard. You cannot say that ruku is other than fard, because then you are going against something that there's ijma' in, and you're going against a scripture. So therefore, this is equivalent to kufr, to try to change the basics or the base of the religion. But ultimately, it's denying something that is well established in the religion. And if someone omits something that's fard in prayer, like ruku', if you omit ruku' in your prayer, then the prayer is invalid. Right? Someone prays and they didn't do the ruku' for the first rak'ah, and they realize, after they prayed that, I didn't do the ruku', they have to repeat that prayer because they omitted something that is fard. Another example is like making sajda in prayer. Sajda is fard. The next hukum is al-wajib. Wajib. Wajib also means that it's mandatory, it's obligatory. Any questions on phone? So let's clear. The next hukum is called wajib. Wajib again is mandatory, obligatory. You must do it. they say, the fuqaha, that it's the most important act or rewarding act after the fard. And it's very sinful to omit an act which is wajib. Okay? Now, if someone denies something that's wajib, they don't become kafir, but they become fasiq. They're corrupt in the religion. Right? And the difference between fard and wajib is this point here, that if left, the act of worship is still valid. Okay? Though correction is needed. If someone leaves something that's wajib in prayer, the prayer is still valid, but correction is needed. If omitted unintentionally, then the sin can be removed by making sajda sahwu if it's in prayer, okay, and if it's omitted intentionally, then the act should be repeated, and tawbah is needed as well. So if it's done, if this wajib is omitted unintentionally, then the correction, okay, will remove the sin. So there are different types of corrections depending on what act of worship you're talking about. Okay, for example, in prayer, the correction would be sajda sahwu if it was done unintentionally. In Hajj, you may have to pay dam, you may have to pay some kind of jinaya, you have to pay some kind of fee. And that's why it's important to understand the fiqh of Hajj, so you understand how to correct your mistakes. But if a wajib is left unintentionally, the whole act should be repeated to remove the sin, and tawbah is needed. For wajib, tawbah is needed. Okay? And there's difference of opinion as to the wajibat amongst the madhabs, right? But one example of a wajib would be to start your prayer with takbir. Okay? Because what we're mostly going to be drawn from is the Hanafi madhab in these classes, okay? But all the madhabs are correct, they're fine, okay, they're good. So, to say takbir to commence your prayer, Allahu Akbar, is wajib. To say Alhamdulillah and start your prayer like that, that is that is omitting the wajib. Okay? Another wajib would be to have itmi'nan in every position, to let your body rest in every position. Like in ruku', if you go into ruku', you let your body rest in ruku'. Okay? If someone goes into ruku' and they don't let their organs rest in ruku', they just go into ruku' and then come back up like this, they miss the wajib. Okay? That's important. This is a subtle thing that many people, they make this mistake. But they don't realize how important this is. In some madhabs, this is fard. If you don't have itmi'nan, your salah is invalid. In the Hanafi madhab, is wajib. If you don't have itmi'nan, your salah is not invalid. Your salah is deficient. And you have to correct it either by sajda sahwu if you did it unintentionally, or by repeating it if you did it intentionally. Another thing that's wajib is getting up from ruku'. This action, according to the Hanafi madhab, is wajib, it's not fard. You see? So if someone forgettingly from ruku' they go to sajda, right? This is a deficient prayer, right? It's not invalid. If they did it unintentionally, then they should sajda sahwu. So that's wajib. An example of wajib that I have here in the slides is Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? Surah Al-Fatiha in the Hanafi madhab is wajib. It's not fard. Now someone may say that, how dare you say that Surah Al-Fatiha is wajib and you do not say it's fard? When there is an explicit hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says explicitly, لا صلاة إلا بفاتحة الكتاب, which means that there is no prayer except with the Fatiha. So how dare you say, O Hanafi madhab, O Abu Hanifa, and the millions of scholars that upheld the madhab. How dare you say this? And this goes back to usul. And we'll talk a little bit about usul, not much, because we want to focus on the farad al-ayn. If we want to focus too much on these matters like usul, these are things for the specialists, right? But just to give you an appreciation of how they differ, okay? These madhahibs. And the basis for their differences, I want to quickly just talk about why the Hanafi madhab says Fatiha is wajib and not farad. The reason that the Hanafi madhab says that Fatiha is wajib is because they say that in order for anything to alter or for anything to restrict the Quran, it has to be of equal strength. Hadith can restrict the Quran. Hadith can't abrogate the Quran. A hadith can't abrogate, okay, partially or fully in ayah if that hadith is of the same authenticity and it's as explicit. They look at these two matters. It's called, we'll talk about it later, but thubut and dalala. Okay, there's something called thubut, and this is in reference to authenticity. And there's something called dalala, and this is in reference to how many different ways this proof can be interpreted. This scripture, this report from the Prophet ﷺ, if it's very explicit, okay, in its language, like this hadith, you would say in its dalala, in its explicitness, right? It's very explicit. لا فاتحة لا صلاة إلا بفاتحة الكتاب.